Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video, episode number 474, right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. Got your questions here from spring.me/Aaron Rift. So let's get started with the first one today from longtime viewer and everybody's favorite submitter of questions, Kayfabe Candy Ass. Which WWE business decision will come back to bite them on the ass the most? Going public, the XFL, or dropping the traditional pay-per-view format for the WWE Network, or all of the above? Here's the thing about the WWE Network. I think that it's a tremendous service. I think that WWE has the right idea, having a digital content service where you can watch all the pay-per-views and all the old shows, as well as get every live pay-per-view, and WWE is able to avoid the middleman with the pay-per-view providers. I think that WWE is doing the right thing here, going in this direction. The problem is that I feel that they have overestimated the potential amount of subscribers that they can get. I think that WWE assumed that there's this huge audience out there of people, potential subscribers to the network, and I think the reality is that beyond your core audience of WWE fans that will actually spend money on the product, there's not really a whole lot of other people that are interested in a network. So it's not like Netflix. The thing with Netflix is they have a very broad audience. Everybody loves movies. WWE is a very specific brand, and it has a very specific audience. So, when you look at it that way, I don't think WWE can really go that far beyond 1 million subscribers. And I think what is going to happen is WWE is going to have to increase the price of the network. And I hate to say that because I love the $9.99 a month. I love paying that amount, but I think that as it is right now, it is an excellent bargain, and I think that most WWE fans would be willing to pay more. I'm sure they would complain about it, but I think WWE could charge as much as $15 a month, and most people would stay on with the WWE Network. I think that if people are going to spend money on something, they will spend a lot on it, and people that aren't going to spend money on it aren't going to spend anything no matter what the price is. So I think WWE is just going to need to make some adjustments, but I think the network will succeed in the long run. And, it's a great concept. I love the network. And I do think that we have to give it time, and Wall Street has to give it time. And that leads up to the next question here from Davies Lee 1. Hey Aaron, can you explain the WWE losing so much money due to the stock price crashing? I know it was around the TV deal, but wasn't this deal expected? Please answer in pigeon carrier. What happened here is WWE basically overhyped themselves to Wall Street and to the stockholders. WWE expected, 2 to 3 times what they were getting in TV rights fees, and they didn't get quite as much as they were expecting. And, that's just the way WWE is. They tend to overhype themselves, and that's one thing WWE's been excellent at, is hype and, making people think they're a bigger deal than they are. And, they did it here, and it's coming back to bite them in the ass. So I think in time WWE will recover from this, but, they need to be careful about throwing out numbers that are unrealistic. And, when they do that, things like this happen where, they announce the actual numbers and everybody freaks out because they aren't as high as WWE was, anticipating and making people think that these numbers were likely. So, that's something that WWE will have to learn from. But like I said, I think that in the long run, WWE will recover from this. They still got a great deal with their television renewal. And, the network is a great service, and, I think it will succeed in the long run. All right, this one comes from the Aftershock X. Hey, Aaron, was WWE popular at your school? If it was not, How and if kids picked on you for it? How did you deal with it? WWE, for the most part, was not popular, at least in the mid-90s, around the time I was in middle school. By the time I got into high school, WWE actually started to get really popular, and popular enough to the point where during the morning announcements, they actually had one of the kids doing an impression of The Rock during the announcements. So it did get popular for a bit. I remember around 1999, 2000. WWE was actually quite a bit popular, and I saw people with the NWO T-shirts as well, and people with the DX shirts and Steve Austin shirts. So yeah, it was definitely easier towards the end of the 90s and going into 2000, 2001. But I still had the people. I didn't really get picked on for it, but people would say, "Why do you watch that stuff? It's fake." I got that all the time. And, you try to show them some clips. And I remember showing them the ECW footage and saying, these guys really do hurt themselves. And even though it's scripted, they're still putting their bodies on the line. So I would try to defend it as much as possible. But, looking back, you just have to, people are going to like it or they're not going to like it. And there's only so much you can do to try to convince somebody to like something. If they're going to like it, they'll like it on their own. All right, this one comes from Wrestling Dude 95. Yo, Aaron, do you think that the New York shows for Impact Wrestling will help them get a new deal with Spike TV? Doing a series of shows in New York City doesn't change TNA as a company and the creative process and all that stuff. So, I'm not really sure why they think that is going to be the deal maker with Spike TV. TNA always tries to come up with solutions, but they always fail to make real changes with the product. And that's the big issue with TNA. And this leads me to the next question here from Anthony TD35138. Do you think TNA needs to stop producing storylines that are similar to WWE's? It makes the company's future look that much more grim at this point. Here's the thing, TNA has not only been doing storylines that WWE has done, but going back almost a decade now, TNA has always come off to me like a second-rate WCW, and not even the good part of WCW, but the bad part, like WCW Thunder. And I've talked about this for years. TNA was at its peak when it had somewhat of its own identity. When they did the six-sided ring, that was cool. And having the X Division and just doing things that were different from WCW and WWE. And that's really the key. In order to be an alternative, you need to be an alternative. You need to be different from the other product. And whenever TNA has tried to copy WWE, they have fallen flat. And the same thing happened with WCW, and TNA failed to learn from history. And now it might be too little, too late. It might be too difficult now to try and change the company and turn everything around, because TNA just has that negative stigma to it. It's a damaged brand, and I don't know if there's any kind of recovery for TNA. And certainly going to New York doesn't change the fact that it's still TNA. So it's not going to solve the problem. And yeah, if they really want to have any chance of long-term survival or maybe turning things around, you got to have a different product. Just revamp it completely and just take it in a complete different direction. And this question comes from Creature13. Do you think TNA would have been better off without Hogan, Bischoff, and Flair? I think that in the long term, yes. In the short term, it was worth bringing those guys in. I mean, you had to give it a shot. Say what you will about Hulk Hogan, but he did bring in more viewers than TNA ever had up to that point. When he came in, his quarter-hour segment, I think it came very close to 3 million viewers, which I think was the all-time record for Impact in terms of viewers on Spike TV. So Hogan definitely brought in some eyeballs and got people talking about TNA. The problem is they really had no long-term direction to go. and they were just rehashing the same old angles. On that show, they had Hall and Nash and X-Pac out there, and they were teasing the NWO. It was just going back to the same thing. And like I said in the previous question, just going back to old ideas and not coming up with anything new. That was the big problem with TNA. And when things weren't working out with Hogan, Bischoff, and Flair, Dixie should have gotten rid of them. I mean, they should have been gone 6 months after they came in. When you don't do your job, you're let go. But Dixie kept them around, and they were around for 2-3 years, and it was really, it was 2-3 years too long. So I mean, that's the bottom line. You had to bring them in and get that exposure and get some new people in there, but at the same time, not necessarily new people, but legends and people with the name value. But in the long run, it just didn't work out. And yeah, TNA probably would have been better without them being there. All right, this one comes from Daniel 1995. Daniel N 1995. Hey Aaron, do you think that the "This Is Awesome" chants are becoming too common and overused nowadays? Overall, I would say yes. I think that people are doing it too much. It used to be something special, and you knew you were seeing a really tremendous match when the people would start chanting that. But now they like to chant it just for the sake of chanting it. I did find it funny when they did it for the Wyatts and Shield match before the two teams even touched. I thought that actually was a good effect for the match. But yeah, I think that fans need to not make a habit of chanting it for every single match. And, it was becoming a problem noticeably in TNA when they were doing it during the opening match or doing it, for any normal high spot, they would start chanting "This Is Awesome." So yeah, that really does water the chant down, in my opinion. And I think fans need to just ease up on it a little bit. All right, this last one today comes from MVTVR20. Hey Aaron, what do you think of the Kevin Steen rumors about him jumping ship to WWE? Do you think it would be a mistake because after all, WWE has buried plenty of guys like Kevin Steen? I think he would be like CM Punk and walk out. Please answer in video. I think that Kevin Steen has a decent shot of going far in WWE. I remember watching him almost a decade now, going back to PWG, and he's done a lot of stuff with Ring of Honor. He doesn't really have that look. He's not a really tall guy. I mean, he is a little bit bulky, but he doesn't really have like the bodybuilder look that WWE likes. But I think he would still have a shot of making it, and it depends on what kind of gimmick they give him and how the fans react to him. And anything's possible. You never know how the people are going to react to somebody until they're actually out there in front of 15,000 people, and you see what happens if they make a connection with the audience. And like I've said in previous videos, it's one thing to be able to get a reaction out of 500 people. It's another thing to do it in front of 15,000 people. And some guys made the transition. CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, those guys were able to do it. And some guys weren't able to do it. So I definitely think Kevin Steen deserves the opportunity in WWE. And, he deserves a shot, and we'll see what happens. But I think that if WWE does give him a solid opportunity, I think he'll be successful in WWE. So we'll see what happens with him. All right, that'll do it for this edition of No DQ&A video. If you enjoyed today's video, please share it on Facebook and Twitter. And next episode is number 475. That will be an extended edition of No DQ&A video. Get your questions in, spring.me/AaronRift. And I will see you guys next time for number 475.